Okay, so today we're going deep on Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Ooh.
Have you heard of this one?
Of course. It's a classic.
It is, right? By Robert Kiyosaki.
Mm.
Like, it's one of those that, it's been around forever. Everyone's talking about it.
Everyone and their mother. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're kind of using the Algorithmic Book Club podcast episode
Yeah.
on it as our guide.
Okay, cool.
And they just did a fantastic job, like, pulling out all the key takeaways.
Love that podcast.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Really smart.
Yeah, and so we're going to kind of unpack the contrasting mindsets of the rich dad and the poor dad that he talks about.
Right. Two different perspectives on money.
Exactly. And just see how how their advice and like their philosophies can maybe shift your thinking about wealth.
Yeah, I think that's what the book is really all about. It's not really about like specific tactics or anything like that.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
about like the underlying philosophy and the mindset.
Yeah.
And, Kiyosaki contrasts his own father, the poor dad, with his friend's father, the rich dad.
Right.
And they just had completely different ways of looking at the world and money.
Totally. And I remember the first time I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like years ago. The thing that struck me was like the simplicity of the rich dad's advice.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like these really short, like punchy statements.
Totally.
Like, work to learn, don't work for money.
Yes.
And it really like stuck with me.
Yeah, no, that's a great one.
But before we like get too deep into like the specific advice, could you just like break down for us like the core difference between those two perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely. So the poor dad represents like that traditional path that we're all kind of, familiar with. Like,
Right.
get a good education, get a secure job, work hard, save your money.
Yeah, be responsible.
Be responsible. Exactly. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But the rich dad challenges us to think beyond just earning a paycheck.
Okay.
He's all about building assets, things that generate income for you.
While you sleep.
Exactly. Even while you're on vacation.
Right. Passive income, all that.
Yeah. And that's like the real key difference.
Okay, so let's get into this whole assets versus liabilities thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like those words are thrown around all the time.
All the time.
But I think people get them mixed up.
Yeah, they definitely do.
So can you give us some like concrete examples from the book that really like highlight the difference?
Sure. So let's think about a rental property.
Okay.
That's like a classic example of an asset, right? It generates income each month from the rent payments.
Okay. Yeah.
Another example would be stocks that pay dividends.
Okay.
Those are putting money in your pocket now.
Sure.
Contrast that with your car.
Oh, yeah.
That's a liability.
Taking money out.
It's depreciating in value. It costs you money and gas insurance repairs, all that fun stuff.
All the things.
Even a house, as much as we love them,
Right.
can be a liability if your mortgage payments are like draining your income without generating any returns.
Right. And this is where I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad really pushes you to examine your spending habits.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in buying liabilities that we think are assets.
100%. Like you buy a fancy car because you think it's going to impress people.
Right. It's a status symbol.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not actually putting money in your pocket.
Yeah.
And that's what Rich Dad really wants us to shift our focus to, is asking ourselves with every purchase, is this helping me build wealth or is it just another expense?
Right. Need versus want.
Exactly.
Okay, so this kind of brings us to that other big takeaway from the Algorithmic Book Club, which was the whole financial education piece.
Yes.
Why was that such a cornerstone for Rich Dad?
Well, because he knew that financial literacy isn't something you really pick up in traditional schooling.
Oh, totally.
We learn algebra and history and all these important subjects.
Right.
But how many of us graduate knowing how to analyze a financial statement or, understand different investment strategies?
Yeah, I feel like that was not part of the curriculum.
Not really.
I definitely had to learn all that stuff on my own later.
Me too. It's like a whole separate world.
Yeah, and it can be so overwhelming.
Totally.
The book also mentions like understanding financial statements.
Yeah.
What does that even mean for like the average person?
Well, think of a financial statement like a company's report card.
Okay.
It shows, how much money they're making, how much they're spending, their overall financial health.
Okay.
And being able to understand those reports can help you make smarter investment decisions.
So you're saying like we don't need to become accountants,
No, not at all.
but like having that basic understanding of financial literacy can make a huge difference in our own personal finances.
Exactly. It's about empowering yourself to manage your money and not relying on someone else to do it for you.
Right.
And the good news is there are so many resources available today, like online courses, podcasts, books.
Oh.
There's really no excuse for not educating yourself.
And for you listening right now, think about that. Like, how confident are you in your own financial literacy?
Hmm.
Have you taken the time to, like, develop those skills?
It's a really important question to ask yourself
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, financial freedom isn't just about having money. It's about having the knowledge to manage it wisely.
So true. All right. So to recap the big takeaways from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, focus on building income-generating assets, not
Yes.
just increasing your income.
Right.
And make financial education a priority because traditional schooling might not cut it.
Absolutely. Those are like the pillars of the rich dad philosophy.
Okay, so I'm going to leave you with a question.
Okay, hit me.
If you could sit down with Rich Dad or Poor Dad,
Yeah.
what one question would you ask them about building wealth?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And then how can you start applying even just a small piece of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad mindset to your own life starting today?
Love it. Get started now.
Exactly.
Small steps.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Awesome.
All right, thanks for joining us for this deep dive on Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
This was fun.
This was good.
We should do more of these.
Absolutely.
All right, until next time.
See ya.